Hey guys, how's it going? We're doing things a little differently today. I've got the screen capture up because I've actually got something interesting to show on my screen. I might be doing this a little more often during the off season as I break things down. So I've got a little lead in that I want to get into before we start talking about the off season in full. Before I start on this, congrats to Denver and Carolina going to the Super Bowl. I was rooting for both teams today, so it was a pretty good day. Probably rooting for Denver in the Super Bowl. Really wish we could have been out there playing Arizona in the NFC Championship game, of course, because they just haven't looked right ever since Honey Badger got hurt and Palmer hurt his finger. But it's what it is. You can't win the Super Bowl every year. Can't go to the Super Bowl every year. So props to both those teams. So off season starts for every team in 2 weeks. It's already started for most teams, including the Seattle Seahawks. So let's go ahead and talk about one thing that I really want to get into before the offseason begins, because this is a very, very important offseason for this team. And I'll talk about why. Pete Carroll and John Snyder, the current brain trust of the Seattle Seahawks, got here in 2010, taking over for the fired Jim Mora and Tim Ruskell. Ever since they got here, it's been a roller coaster when it comes to what we have done in our drafts. I think everybody kind of understands that what you do in the draft will shape the kind of team that you are going to be. If you draft well, you can go to the Super Bowls. If you don't draft well, you'll be drafting high year after year. So we'll start at the beginning, because obviously after 2009, we're coming off a 5-11 season. It would be our best chance to lock down a really good draft pick for quite some time, and that has held up. So 2010, let's start at the beginning. 3 Pro Bowl caliber players in this draft, which is really good. 2 first-round picks, Okung and Thomas. Thomas, obviously, future Hall of Famer, I think. Russell Okung played like a Pro Bowler for a couple years, and then he got hurt. Still an effective lineman, even though he gets injured a lot. So you have to say that both those picks worked out. Cam Chancellor made several Pro Bowls. 5th-round pick, tremendous value. And then you've got one guy who went on to become a player for us who, he didn't make the Pro Bowl. He wasn't one of the best receivers in football, but Golden Tate was a really good wide receiver for us. Helped us win a Super Bowl. And then you have one role player, Walter Thurman. Walter Thurman, good nickel cornerback, good dime cornerback. Played some special teams. Not a phenomenal player by any means, but he was a part of things over the next several years. So 5 hits, which isn't great, but 3 of those hits ended up being Pro Bowlers. So that's a good draft. But things didn't really get started until the next year in 2011. So let's take a look at 2011 here, because this is where the money really starts to flow. We got one top tier pick, Richard Sherman, 5th rounder, all pro, Pro Bowler, future Hall of Famer maybe, one of the best cornerbacks in the league ever since really 2012. He was a contributor from the moment he started playing in 2011, and as far as 5th-round picks go, you won't find much better value than that. 4 highly productive contributors came out of this draft. James Carpenter, though he was a disappointment as a 1st-round pick, still played pretty well for us. He got injured a lot. He was bumpy in pass blocking, but he could run block like a beast. He was a mauler. And at the end of the day, given that our identity over the 4 years he was here was a run first, run blocking, mauling type team, I have to say that he gets a lot of credit for that. So I'll give him the nod there. KJ Wright played like a Pro Bowler this year, and if he does it again, he gets bumped up. But as it stands, he started most of the games since he got here at outside linebacker, and he's been really good. And this last year, he was downright great. So Byron Maxwell, 6th-round pick. Started for a couple years, played really well. Wasn't perfect, but he played really well. Fit into the system, was good depth before he took over the job from Brandon Browner. And, of course, the last one is Doug Baldwin, who, again, if he plays this year like he plays next year like he played the second half of this year, then he will get bumped up a tier as well. He is a guy who is playing at a Pro Bowl level right now, and if he keeps it up for another year, I'll give him that nod. So that is a 4th-round pick in Wright, 6th-round pick in Maxwell, undrafted free agent in Baldwin. So absolute gold. Then you got 2 role players. Malcolm Smith had a really good month of football for us. Otherwise was just a guy, but you got to give him credit for what he did because he did help us win a Super Bowl in a big way. And Ricardo Lockett, good special teams gunner, did some stuff as a wide receiver too, good role player. You need guys like that. Both these guys cost very little in resources. And then finally, 3 depth players. Jerron Johnson, I think his name was, backup safety. Mike Morgan, backup linebacker. And I think Ron Parker, backup defensive back. These guys, they're not great, but they do play special teams. And you do need guys like that. So that's 10 hits in one draft, which is phenomenal. And then finally, 2012. This is the other money draft. This is the draft that got us to our first Super Bowl. 2 Pro Bowl caliber players. Bobby Wagner, Russell Wilson. Wagner did not have his best year last year, in my opinion, but he is still a guy who is one of the best linebackers in football. Obviously, Luke Kuechly's at the top right now, but other than Luke Kuechly, I would put Wagner up against almost anybody else. And then Russell Wilson, of course. Phenomenal game manager, occasionally playmaking quarterback. But last year, the second half, he broke out to the point where you see what he really could be, even next year. And then you got 2 highly productive contributors. Bruce Irvin, second, he was our 1st-round pick. Maybe he's been a little bit of a letdown given that he was a mid-1st-round pick, but he's been highly productive at the outside linebacker position. Should he stay? Should he go? I don't know. But either way, he was a part of this stretch of 4 really good seasons. And J.R. Sweezy, for all the frustrations that J.R. Sweezy gives, for all that he struggles, he started every game since he got here, except for Week 17 this year. So even if he's not the best player, even if some people think he's terrible, then so be it, but he's started so much and he's played so many snaps, you have to give him something. And then you've got 4 role players. You got Robert Turbin, backup running back for 3 years. Jeremy Lane, nickelback, very good nickelback. Jermaine Kearse, been a backup and a starting wide receiver, and he's contributed, made the most of his marginal talent. And Deshaun Shed, finally getting his name right. It's Shed, not Sneed. And backup safety for a few years, and then this year, boom, he's a 2nd cornerback, and he's playing well out there, legitimately playing well. And 1 depth player, Greg Scruggs, never did a ton, but he was on the roster, and you need guys like that. So over these 3 drafts, we got 6 Pro Bowlers, 7 elite contributors, 7 role players, and 5 depth players. That is a total of 25 hits over 3 seasons. That's damn near as good as it gets. That's more than 8 players who are part of your team going forward over a 3-year span of drafts. If you hit this, you can win Super Bowls with a couple of smart free agent signings. Now, after 2012, Scott McLaughlin, who I'm probably mispronouncing his name, left. He went to Washington, and he's got those guys trending in the right direction, the Redskins. So how did we fare without him? These are our next 3 drafts since Scott left, since 2014. 2014, ugly. 0 Pro Bowler. Oh, I'm sorry, I scrolled too far. Okay, 2013. So, sorry about that. I got a little discombobulated. 2013, ugly. 0 Pro Bowlers. 1 good contributor, Jordan Hill. I mean, Hill, he can play at a Pro Bowl level when he's out there, but he's not out there enough. He gets hurt. So, can't put him any higher than this, as no matter how much I like him. Harold Simon, great potential, cannot stay healthy at all, and he's been abused a few times in his career. So, verdict is still out. I'm not sure either way, but he has played a few games for us, and he has played well a few times, so he's a role player. Luke Wilson, good backup tight end, has started a few times, and he's done pretty well. Bad hands, he blocks well, he runs routes well, he's fast, but just a guy. Not bad for a fifth round pick. And Alvin Bailey drives me crazy with some of his stuff, but he does play. He's filled in for Russell Okung pretty well a few times. He's played the swing tackle. He's been a sixth offensive lineman a few times. So can't ignore what he's done for this team. That's 4 hits. This draft brought us guys like Christine Michael, who still has a chance to rewrite his script in Seattle, but right now all I see is a dude who was here for 2 years and then got traded for a 7th round pick. So, okay, 2014. Dry. 0 Pro Bowlers, no highly productive contributors, and there's not a lot of potential for growth here. We've got 5 role players, but I don't see them being much more than that. Paul Richardson, pretty good. He can play. He also can't stay healthy. One of those. Justin Britt started a lot of games, so I had to say that he was at least here, but he's never really been good. At best, he's shown some potential, and he's had a couple of good games, but the Justin Britt experience so far has been a bit of a mess. We've moved positions, we've moved him around, we've tried a bunch of different things. Nothing's worked that well. There's still time for Britt, but right now, he's just a guy who plays because nobody's better. Cassius Marsh, good special teams player, gets out there on defense every now and then, but certainly no stud. He'll make a play every now and then, and he's good on the special teams. Kevin Pierre-Louis, some people swear that Kevin Pierre-Louis is the next great player in the NFL, or next great linebacker in the NFL, at least. I haven't seen anything from him yet, so I can't say very much about Pierre-Louis. He's just a backup linebacker right now who comes in every now and then and plays. And Gary Gilliam, who played okay at right tackle this season, but he certainly wasn't great. I don't feel tremendous about keeping him around. I don't feel like I want him out. He's just a guy. So role player. And then Brock Coyle, special teamer, backup linebacker, whatever. So that's 6 hits, and none of these guys have any kind of star or, over the top type potential. They're just guys. That's getting ugly. This is how you bring your team down from a Super Bowl winner to a team that is just contending. You hurt your resources, you hurt what you have available to you as a football team, and it puts you in some awkward positions in free agency and with trades. And finally, 2015, which could go one way or the other at this point. Nobody has really shown that they're a Pro Bowler yet because they've only been in the league 1 year. The good news is we've got 3 really good contributors for their rookie season so far. Frank Clark, I know he didn't play a ton, but when he did play, he showed me enough to where I feel like he has solidified himself as being part of this team over the next few seasons at the very least. Tyler Lockett has clearly shown to me he's going to be a Pro Bowl wide receiver one day, but not there yet, and he's got to work harder to get there. And then Thomas Rawls, who looked like the best running back in football when he was healthy. Of course, health has been a problem for him his whole career, so we'll see. So you would say that's not that bad. You get 3 good players. But other than that, it's looking thin. No role players, and then 2 depth players. Glowinski, who's played 1 good game, Week 17 against Arizona, and another guy who's just a special teamer. So that's 5 hits. Again, it's thin. It'll look a lot better if Lockett, Rawls, and Clark can become big-time players, but for now, it's thin. So last 3 years, no guys who have played at a Pro Bowl level, 1 or 2 guys who have flashed potential at Pro Bowl level, 4 highly productive contributors, 8 role players, and 3 depth players. That's 15 hits. That's 3 per year. I mean, that is how you can, or excuse me, that's 5 per year. Sorry, writers can't do math, as we all know. That is how you bring your team down. And this right here, this is a sign that this front office is not a bunch of guys who can do no wrong. We have to question the moves, question the logic. We have to hold them accountable for what they do. We have to analyze every decision they make. And if we don't agree with them, we can't just go, oh, well, these guys are geniuses and they always get it right, so we just have to trust them. If we don't like what they're doing, then we have to assume that they might be making mistakes. If you don't like the fact that, let's say, the first round comes around and they pick up wide receiver with their first round pick, or if they draft a defensive end with their first round pick. If you don't like that, then I think it's time to get back to a point where your front office is seen as fallible and they can make mistakes. And I know every front office can make mistakes, but this is 3 fairly dry draft classes in a row now. And if you want to say 2015 is looking up, I'll agree with you, but we got to see. And basically my point is this. We need to hit this next draft strong, or else we will be digging around in free agency trying to round out this team, and nobody wants that. So this next draft is very important. We need to make the right decisions. We can't be doing nothing like taking Paul Richardson and Justin Britt with our first 2 picks. We can't be taking Christine Michael with our first pick in 2013. We got to make good decisions here, or else this window will start to slip away. These 3 drafts have set us in a rocky direction. Now we need to right the ship, and a good draft class will go a long way in that. That's my little off-season primer. I'll get into details about what I want this team to do probably later this week, but be vigilant, fellow Seahawks fans. Team needs to do smart things now, and we need to judge what they do and hold them accountable. See you later.